My name is Sakina and I'm the Senior Economic Planner here at the DC Office of Planning. I focus on economic development analysis and strategy, and particularly in terms of emerging industries and emerging neighborhoods throughout the city.
There's a program that the Economic Development Administration runs, and if you will, the gateway to that program is having an approved comprehensive economic development strategy.
The comprehensive economic development strategy is an economic roadmap that the U.S. Economic Development Administration oversees, and it's intended to diversify and strengthen your local economy.
It doesn't sound like it's necessarily a big hurdle, but in fact for more than half a dozen years, the district didn't have an approved strategy, and that meant that we would never be eligible for this pipeline of grant money designed to help fund economic development projects. And so it was very important that we get an approved, what we call a CEDS, a Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy.
In preparing a federal funding grant application, it can typically take at least a few months. We basically had to initiate and complete a full application within 10 days. And so I led that effort, and it was a little bit stressful. We had to work through some issues, particularly as we were partnering with an external partner, which kind of further complicated the application a little, but we were able to kind of problem solve through those issues and submit on time, and we were successful. We were awarded a grant to look at the DHS consolidation east of the river on the west campus of St. E's, and how we can best leverage that consolidation and develop an innovation strategy that could ultimately benefit residents in terms of business and employment opportunities.
Another project that she's been very instrumental in is the Creative DC Action Agenda, and she was the lead project manager for that and led a very detailed and in-depth study looking at the creative economy in our nation's capital.
Creative DC Action Agenda was looking at the district's creative economy, and I initiated and guided that research, and there was some fairly complex kind of analysis that went along with it.
And we began to say, well, if the filter that you looked at the economy through was the creative economy, people who as part of their jobs produce something that requires creativity, would that change the way we think about the district's economy overall?
That included some detailed economic analysis and working closely with stakeholders, and then developing a set of actions and recommendations that could be implemented.
So we found a team of people to execute that study, the best in the country. Sakina found the funding for it, and we embarked on probably one of the most significant and probably the most underutilized studies that the district has ever undertaken. Because it challenges everybody's assumption about who has a job here and what they do and the kinds of work that's done in the district.
The project yielded some very significant findings, primarily that it's about 10% of our economic development base in terms of jobs, and it produces about $5 billion annually.
The net result of that, in part, was if we weren't a government town, we'd be a media town.
And then a number of stakeholders in the private and nonprofit sectors have been able to use the findings from that study to help bolster their grant applications, because for the first time we were able to demonstrate the importance of the district's creative economy and what it means in terms of jobs and revenues.
The thing that has affected me the most in working with Sakina is her impassioned leadership, and particularly her ability to work with community, with stakeholders, and government, her government colleagues, in coming to consensus, which is not always an easy thing to do.
Well, I think Sakina is a really unique and wonderful person. She's herself very creative and very engaging, and I think she's genuinely interested in these different parts of the city and these different ways of viewing the city that I think other people find really fascinating. And I know that when it comes to the creative economy, just the way that she framed the study and the outreach to the different members of the creative community in Washington it was just overwhelming, the feedback that we got.
Yeah, Sakina, she's a very intelligent, conscientious, and dedicated employee, and I'm happy to say that she's also my friend. I think that she genuinely cares about the continued economic growth in the city and making sure that all residents participate in that and benefit from the economic growth.